Thai PBS had been talk about. Some of them are quite on a negative note, just because we don't fall into the trap of creating dichotomy or fragmented society. You must know that in Thailand, now there's a movement that want to reduce the power of the monarchy, want to change the relationship of the people. Once that we revere the senior citizen, they want everybody to be level or the so-called equal. But by the term, as a public broadcasting media, we cannot just go ahead and repeating the notions or the ideologies of the equality in the sense of what the Western nations define. I think that we have to be really firm in the concept of do no harm. We think that certain pictures that when we broadcast will creating uprising, riots, or hatred of any kind. We think that we have the right to not broadcasting it or showing it to the public. But when we do that, instead of being regarded that we are trying not to further the harm that's already existing in the society, we've been regarded lastly by the this is published by Neiman Foundation. You're probably familiar with that if you're in journalism, in the Harvard School of Journalism, and defining such act as adapting to autocracy, adapting to dictatorship or whatever, which is not totally a false notion. I think media, who is the host of the country, should have the right to say what we prefer. And we adhere to the 8 Noble Paths. And one of that is the rightful speech. And in that, we have the notion of noble silence. This is no way a self-censorship for those of you who join and maybe start to think that, oh, this guy is really going to censor a lot of things. No, we let things come out when it creates the most benefit for the viewers. We regarding ourselves as gatekeeper, which is the basic function, and in adapting to this changing media situation, we think that the values that we will have to have our independent voice, that means the voice that is rooted in our culture, rooted in the sensibility of our people, is still needed to be the rule of the day, if you know what I mean, about how we adapt without really waiting for the vaccination from the China or even from the United States, and ask our people to adapt, to use the noble ways. Some regarded that we don't pushing hard enough so Thai people can get the vaccination for COVID, or we don't push enough for the structural change. But I think what the media should do, and I just repeating myself, if you know me, you know that I will really believe in the concept of doing no harm. Whatever we do, we should regard our fellow, humanity, fellow environments as the stakeholders. The way that Thai PBS creating news reporting, we really focus on that. Actually, after this seminar, I will go into another meeting of mine and really go into details of the protocol, how to say if someone set fire to something that people really revered, a pagoda or a Buddha image, or maybe the picture of the king in the case of Thailand. Should we broadcast it right away? Should we use our mobile phone and say, well, this is the immediate truth that the society needs to acknowledge? I personally don't think so. I think that we should have our sensibility. We should use our way of thinking. What kind of consequence will take place after we broadcast or streaming the content that just happening at hand? last Sunday during the protest in Thailand on the 28th, there's a big complaint why Thai PBS not using our live broadcasting facility. Why don't we use our the so-called SNG, satellite news gathering van, to broadcast the situation as it happens? And in our meeting board, we say, well, everybody with a mobile phone and the Facebook Live can just do that. That is not our job. Our job is to be trustworthy. And in creating trust, beside from, we really have to be truthful, but the truth doesn't have to come at the moment that it will hurt, as you must know what I mean, or exasperate the situation, make it bigger than it's supposed to be, people losing more lives, instead of just one police officer had a heart attack and passed away. That's really unfortunate. But what I'm trying to say is that to be slow, to be careful, to be more paying attention to what kind of effects that the media create. It's a way that we choose to do. And it's rely a lot on the Buddhist teaching. It relies a lot on the concept of self-reflection. When we want to say something it's wrong or right, we rely on, as Dr. Kalinga said on Kalama Sutra, to test the truth. Or even the visual. We all know that visuals, it's a lot of bullshit. You cannot really trust what you see anymore today. And if you stand on certain angle with your mobile phone, you might think that, okay, this is the real situation. But if you stand on the other side, then you get a different perspective. So the job of the news agency or the public broadcaster is not to feed the live stream, but wait. And the concept of slow news reporting, which is something that a lot of people just laugh at me, but I just think that I prefer to have the last laugh, because at least when we really verify what's happening in the field, then we can be certainly absolutely sure that our reportage, our our live, our story is not furthering the damage to the people and to ourselves. A conflict story between perhaps the government and the people, but it's not necessarily have to be that way, as people can see that's maybe a way that people can connect to each other better. I think that as the Buddhists and the journalists, we still have to take the truth at one step at a time, one place at a time, and not doing the over generalization. And that's why I'm interested in let people learn how to use the mobile phone. I'm not propagating people using live streaming. And that's a big difference, because now today the mobile phone can do live streaming. But I encourage them to learn to use mobile phone as a fact gathering gadget. That means they film certain, say, if there's going to be a bridge building in their community, I want someone to be able to film the river before the bridge and the situation people use. Maybe perhaps they have to have a boat to row back and forth. School children have to do that. And once the bridge is being built, we want to see the villagers be able to record it and compare and further the dialogue, whether we should build more bridges or perhaps the bridges themselves are the problem. I think you know what I mean. And this is the kind of thing that we encourage our staff at Thai PBS to explore into. It's not in any way anti-Western. No, we still use the technology. We still believe in a lot of good quality. We still believe in democratic society. But in the how of making that things happen, I think the Buddhist methodology and Buddhist perspective is really relevant, and be able to create a more humanistic society rather than a conflict-ridden nation.